Are we set? I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Palm Springs Arts Commission for Wednesday, February 19th, 2020. Mr. Murata, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Commissioner Gladstone.
Present.
Commissioner Pritchard.
Present.
Vice Chair Merrigan. Present. Chair Sheffer.
Present.
Commissioner Favreau.
Present.
Very good.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
And Commissioner Yanni has an excused absence, and
Commissioner Murray, I have not heard from, but
he'll
he's
probably be here. Okay. To go a little bit out of order, before we have the public comments, I'd like to ask the city clerk to come and swear in our new commissioner so that she can participate.
Shonda Thomas Favreau. Do solemnly swear. That I will support and defend. The Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of California. Against all enemies. Foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith. And allegiance. To the same. I take this obligation freely. Without any mental reservation. Or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully. Discharge the duties. Upon which I'm about to enter.
Okay.
You have a new commissioner.
Thank you. I think we need to bottle that energy somehow so that we can. Okay. Now,
Serious oath.
it really is. They do those things called, right, a certificate. I don't remember getting one, do you? Okay. May I have a motion, please, to accept the agenda as altered?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda for February 19th, 2020.
Second?
I'll second.
Yeah.
I want to take something off the agenda.
You can,
Or move it,
yeah, you can
shall I?
throw that out, and we'll see if people agree. What would you like to take
Well,
off?
yeah, as we discussed prior to the meeting, under action item number 2, approve $5,000 matching grant for the Palm Springs Chamber of Commerce for Love PS Design and Artwork. I think because we've only had a conceptual discussion of this at our study session, that we should take it off an action committee or action item and perhaps under discussion, so that until we have a more concrete plan, then we could approve funds for them if we so support.
What I didn't word this very well, but what I would like to suggest is that what I'm actually recommending is that we not count it as one of the two business groups that we said tentatively would have it, and that it could be a third. But this is not approval for the project, it's approval to allow them to apply for a mini grant without.
We tabled this last time. I think they should have to apply for it like everybody else.
I think so too, but I think it shouldn't take away from.
Additional grant. Because we already said this wasn't a piece of public art.
Right. Please use your microphone, Vice Chair. Thank you.
Does anyone else have an opinion on this? I would like to continue to work with them and let them know that they could have a mini grant if
It just
the
seems like
project
there's too
develops.
much discussion right now, so in terms of making it an action item, I do agree we should probably just move it to the discussion.
We can do that. Okay, hi, we're voting on the agenda.
So then I'll withdraw my original motion.
So you want to approve the
Did you
agenda with the exception of the,
Yeah, well, if you want, I can make a new motion to accept the agenda with the exception of moving action item number 2 under category C, discussion and reports.
yep. Okay, is there a second to that?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right. This is the time that has been set aside for members of the public to address the Public Arts Commission on items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Public Arts Commission, and agenda items if the member of the public cannot be present later in the meeting at the time each item is heard by the commission. Additionally, members of the public may address the commission on each item listed on the posted agenda at the time each item is heard. Testimony for public hearings will only be taken at the time of the hearing. Any person who wishes to speak at a public hearing may do so when the public hearing is called. Although the Public Arts Commission values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. 5 minutes is assigned for each speaker, and I believe we have someone who would like to speak. Do you want to? No, come up and introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Hi. My name is Patrick Sheehan. I'm used to actually being on the other side of this mic. I served 2 3-year terms on this Public Arts Commission, the last 3 years being chair. I think two chairs back. Yeah, so it's good to be back in this room and before you today. Late last year, I sat as an audience member and had a minute to talk at the end of the meeting about a nonprofit I was starting to help put arts back in schools and work with local kids. And I'm just here to inform you that that nonprofit is alive and well and started. It's called Coachella Art. And I put together a little informational packet. If I could pass that around, you could take a look.
Great.
And it was just to let you know, there's a new nonprofits art organization headquartered in Palm Springs, and I'm working. Our kind of primary focus out of the gate is doing murals with kids. Everything we do is going to have young artists helping us do that. I don't know if anybody caught KESQ a couple nights ago, but we were on the news. We have an interactive mural down at camp with Modernism Week. So I'm also here to do a plug for Modernism Week. And if you're, it's still up through the weekend, and the mural is up. It's at the outdoor lounge area. So if you haven't come to camp yet and done any modernism things, camp is free. It's downtown, right next to Copley's restaurant, and it's a super fun interactive mural that's on page 1, and then page 2 shows a picture of the reporter who took a selfie with 3 kids from Raymond Cree Middle School. The little girl in the middle, Bella, is my daughter. So she's my helper. She's my social media guru. She knows more about social media than I do. She's 11. We have a couple upcoming projects that we're doing. I've been approved to do 2 murals at Raymond Cree Middle School, and I'm actually doing, I'm a former executive at Renova Energy in Palm Desert, and we'll be doing a mural there in early March, and we'll also use kids from probably Desert Sands Unified School District, because Coachella Art is going to serve the whole valley, not just Palm Springs Unified. So we'll be, those are 2 projects that are confirmed, and then I've got proposals out already for a 52-foot mural at Julius Corsini in Desert Hot Springs that is in desperate need of some color on their wall. They have a really great, energetic principal whose office is full of kid art, and she's like, I need color. So I met with her, and I put a proposal out for her. Her school, Rancho Mirage Elementary, actually is looking at 3 sites for a mural, so I'm working on some I put an initial proposal out, and then we had some discussion and going back to do that. And then also at Palm Valley School, and then I'm going out to some other local schools as I drive around and see, big empty walls. And then the last couple pages, when I was on the commission, it was right during the downtime of the economy, and we had no money. So really the only thing that we could do to serve the community was do the arts outreach, and that's when we partnered up with Louisa Castrodale and the Unified School District. So we would take some, what limited funds we had, and we would pay for a bus trip for high school seniors at Palm Springs High School to go to the Getty. Most of those kids, I was telling, I met Shonda this weekend, I was telling her, I remember some of those kids who were seniors in high school had never been out of the Valley, let alone to a fine art museum. And they, that was a mind-blowing experience for them. So commissioners got to ride along and meet all the kids. It was really fun. And then I was kind of the artist in residence. So we did a mural project at Bubbling Wells, which is in Desert Hot Springs, which is the page 4 of your proposal. We did one at Ramon Academy, and then I showed you a picture of a mural that, actually the one that we're doing at Renova, I did that and they had to tear it down because the wall had an issue with some mold, and so I'm redoing it, but now I'm going to have some help with the kids. So I'm here just to kind of introduce the organization. We're really committed to, getting kids, as I say, take the mobile phone out of their hand and put the paintbrush in their hand. My own experience for my 2 daughters that went to Catherine Finchie, which is a great public school, they only get art class 1 hour a month in elementary school, and they rely on parents to provide that service, the Meet the Masters program, which is great, but you get, an hour of art a month is not going to stimulate young people to let alone want to make art, and better yet, have a career in the arts. So my goal is to kind of work from the other end. I know that I can't change policy from Sacramento, but we can certainly have art experiences at the school that motivate kids and parents to find the joy of painting. I used to dread having to paint our house. Well, my dad loved to paint our house every 2 years, it seemed, when I grew up. And I dreaded it, but there's nothing I love more. When you can see a kid interact and have fun. A lot of kids have never have really painted, because they just don't have the access to do that. Digital media, unfortunately, has played a part in kind of taking that interest out of that. But there's, I've seen it with my own eyes, the joy that it brings to kids. And so that's my mission, and I'm sticking to it.
And if you'll send us this digitally, we can give it to our social media.
So, I will probably, I'm interested in, so here's the plug. I'm interested in helping this commission as projects come up. I'm already certified with the school district for Palm Springs Unified. And also a mural restoration program. If the James O. Jesse mural has to get repainted all the time because it sits in the western sun, right? So if there are projects that come up where you're kind of struggling to find labor to do that, kind of repainting a mural is pretty easy to help to teach a kid. If it's something where the artist says, look, only I can repaint it, obviously, but a lot of artists, once they move on, once they painted the mural, they're kind of, they move on.
We are facing some of that.
Okay.
The other thing is, have you worked at all with the foundation for the Palm Springs Unified School District?
That's kind of my next my next meeting. I do know of them, and I knew a couple. Kathleen Juraski, I think, just stepped down from that board. But yes, I'm going to be going and hopefully presenting to them next meeting. So
we will.
Congratulations.
And we're about to do neighborhood mini grants.
Okay.
And I think we could tell them about this, this
I'm
projects going, because we have this great idea that neighborhoods are going to figure this out, what sort of project they'd like to do.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sure they could use a little
Well,
help.
I'm Movie Colony East, and I know we have a pretty active membership. Of course, I'm in the realm of robo lights, so the arts are present in Movie Colony East. So yeah, we'd love to put whether that's a chalk art thing or something that's moving, or but.
That's great. Anyone else have any comments or questions?
I think this is great. I don't know if
you'd be willing to be our artist registry?
Yeah,
Could
we're
you
we're
say
about
something
to,
about
on our website, have a way for people to just register is the wrong word, but what kind of media they work in and what kinds of services they could provide
Okay.
to one of these
I'm
neighborhoods.
familiar. Palm Desert has a pretty robust artist
Right.
register.
But this is
I said
more,
said the dirty
more
word.
of not so much just submitting a work to be purchased or placed somewhere, but to work with a community group.
Oh,
So
nice,
this
yeah.
would
So
be
a roster of groups,
right,
yeah.
people that want to do this. That's great.
Great.
We're gonna launch that in March.
Great.
So we'll make sure you.
Okay,
Thank you.
very much. Thanks for your time.
He also knows a lot about solar power. He put in our solar
Solar art.
Oh, really?
when he was working for Renova. Okay, is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Otherwise, we have two sets of minutes. The first one is from the study session on January 7th. They're attached here if you didn't have a chance to look at them before. The study session as such had no action items, so but we have someone new doing our minutes, Diana Carroll, and I think she's doing very well. Either that or we're all speaking up better. But this one was done,
It's very meaty.
yeah, it's quite good. So unless anyone has any changes, may I have a motion to accept the minutes from January 7th?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I make a motion to accept, Madam Chair, I make a motion to accept the minutes from the study session, January 7th, as written.
Great. A second?
I'll second.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now, the meeting held on January 15th, if you want to take a minute, because it did have some, a lot of it was discussion about the mini grants and things that we're going to talk about more today.
So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the Wednesday, January 15th, 2020 regular meeting.
I have a second.
And I'll second them.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Very good. All right. The next thing on the agenda is the report from the chair. And I wanted to share with you two things. First one is if you can go to our city pages, we managed to get the information up to date. So this is what it looks, this is the page you first hit. And the developer information further down is the same as it's always been. And at the very bottom, if you can scroll down a little bit, the mural application is now there in its own section. But if you go back to the top and click on the Art in Public Places program, the first link takes you to this page, which has our mission and how we're funded, because a lot of people don't understand that. And that if you have questions about the commission, you can get in touch with Jay, but if you have questions about the programs that we're doing right now, you can go to our website.
That's great.
And then if you go back, I guess on the left there, the next, okay, the one that says Public Arts Commission, and remember, we're still on the city website, so now it has the names of the commissioners and the date, the time and date that we meet, and again, how to contact the commission officially. And then, if you go back, there's one more official page, which is the, all our minutes and agendas, which you can go back and find. We don't look like we have a lot of minutes, but I'm sure we do. And then lastly, if you go and you click on current programs, it takes you to our website, which does need a bit of updating because it still has things about the 30th
needs to be
year,
updated.
and that will get updated any minute now. But please keep my granddaughter, will you? She's gotten a lot bigger since then.
Yeah, we had talked at the last meeting to have, like, all of the projects we've been doing,
Right.
and then add all of the new
And then we're going to
new
have
stuff.
the registry at the bottom.
Yeah, and have that be like the focal point of the website for
Right.
now, yeah.
But meanwhile, it's got a lot of the history of what we've done. And then
This is so fantastic, Jay.
it really is. I
Yeah,
mean, it
this
just-
is-
No, but there's this
No, it's
wonderful woman
been-
named Annie.
Yeah, it's
who
so much better. It's
just
like
said,
eons better.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very functional,
Yeah.
and I look forward to reviewing it on my phone and on my laptop.
Yeah,
But it
and if you
looks really
find anything,
good.
you know, that,
Yeah.
I mean, mostly it was a case of taking out everything that was already out of date. I mean, it had murals that aren't even on the walls anymore, and it had,
So
you know, just a lot of
fantastic.
things.
And it was like a very sad page, the city website.
It
Now
was.
it's like functional, so it's.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, and the addition of video is a very important component to.
right,
the-
on our website, yes.
yeah.
But I'm happy now that if somebody goes looking for us in the city, they'll actually get up-to-date information. And if they are wanting to do a mural or find out about art in lieu of fees, they can find it on the site. Okay. Then the
Awesome.
other report I have is on the, so I met with Arlene Amick to see how we were doing on the artwork. And this is, we can send you these to read more carefully, but these are the pieces that were cleaned in November. And she has a recommendation whether they need anything more than the next cleaning. You can see there are some where there's going to need to be possibly some minor repairs. There's also, there's one that has, she described it as graffiti, but let's see which one it is. So that was the first, and we did, okay, so that was November. And then the next one is what they did in December. Okay,
Oh, that one.
yeah, there's ones we've all forgotten probably that are there.
Where is that the one?
That one is,
Can you go up at the top?
just to see where it is, Ruth Hardy
Oh,
Park.
Ruth Hardy. Oh.
She did tell me that the one in Sunrise Park, which is that giant one, is going to be very difficult to fix. So in a lot of cases here, they've found some things that need to be done, but they haven't done them yet. So they're trying to work their way all the way around first.
May I
Yeah.
ask, what is that issue there? Is there cracking in that support, or? Sorry, I can't identify what is the
The
concern.
best method for safely removing scale. An additional issue was discovered on the piece and will need further review.
It
And that
looks-
might be a crack. It's sort of hard to,
Yeah, it sort of looks like that it's rusting away, or that actually the support is losing its Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
there's,
look at that, yeah.
yeah.
That's
So
great.
that's one they're coming back to. Their goal was to get through, they started with a list of 30 that was unfortunately sort of arbitrarily picked by the contracts department, but
So much of the issues are irrigation, it's just.
yes, yes.
It's
And
like
we've
one
seen
after
that
another, it
before.
says irrigation.
There's one of our puppies and the cat. In some cases, they don't look much different, but they, these
This
are
is
the
just
ones
really great
at the
because
Moose
this will
Park.
also allow us annual check-ins where we
Right.
really have this record keeping. I'm
Right.
really happy to see this because
And it's a very professional group, and they are taking careful notes of everything. And hopefully, also, we can end up with, now here's one, for example, that,
Oh, yeah.
you know, you can see how damaged it was. Some of them, they may recommend painting, but right now, they're working on cleaning.
But with this regular maintenance, we likely won't be seeing this kind of damage in 5 years' time, for example, on the
Yeah.
animals with the same kind of like enamel or painted finish.
Yeah.
So this is really useful for us to just have these records. So I'm really
Exactly.
happy to see this.
And, you know, when they get to the end of this contract, we'll see what other ones haven't been looked at and what the next step is on all of these.
So,
But these haven't looked this bright, for example, in a long time. It's very,
so painting was not in their contract at all, or not yet?
not really, right? This is clean and assess. And some of the problems with painting is you have to, like, encase them in, you know, if they're going to be sprayed, you can't just sort of spray willy-nilly, and that's why the really large sculptures, in some cases, they would need to move them to do it, and that may not be possible. I've also asked them along the way to suggest sculptures that really should be moved, because some of them are just either in a place nobody notices them, or, you know, or no one notices them anymore because they've just been there for so long.
Yeah.
Should just mention that I'm pretty sure that any kinds of paint applications that would require like a spray could actually be done on site. It just requires a
Like
kind of a
screening,
setup.
right.
But this kind of damage looks like something that could actually be touched up. But yeah, we would need to bring in conservators to come in and sort of assess what kind of
Right.
paint is used, how it's applied.
Exactly. Let's see. Okay, and there's one more set. Now, this one was interesting because we posted a little video of them working on this sculpture on Facebook and Instagram, and we got all these comments from people saying, "You stupid people, you're taking the patina off of this sculpture, you know, don't you know any better? And who's doing this? The city, the tribe, whatever." And so we had Arlene just write a little explanation that they cleaned it in order to preserve the patina, and then they waxed it to seal it in. So they were not taking, they were taking off dust and, you know, sort of oxidation, not the patina. So you'll see at the end, it's still very, that green patina. But it's very, you know, very
Can't
well
believe someone
documented.
graffitied this.
Yeah. There's, that's, they said probably graffiti, this little paw print.
Or so weird.
Is
So
it
they really
possible,
make-
can I request that these records be sent to the
Sure.
commission? That would be just
Sure.
nice to see. Thank you.
And then, I just didn't want to print them because it's pages and pages. We'll send you they're all PDFs. Is that the end of that one? No, there's the laundry. She said that was the easiest one. They vacuumed it.
That's so funny.
But that's one I would love to see moved if we
Yeah,
could
it's
ever
so
get,
sad where it is.
a plan, for moving things around. But we'll have this document, so we'll know what there is. And I think that's the last one on there. And then we need that last one about,
The cleanings have been
Now,
amazing.
I went to the airport with Alicia Thomas, who was the collections manager at the art museum, because the airport administration is very eager for us to clean the works that are there. There are 4 pieces that belong to the city, which Arlene has on her list, but there are 7 pieces that belong to the museum, and they're on loan. I think they're on loan since 2006 for 3 years, but, it's just, there's been no contract, there's been no maintenance for a long time, and Alicia just left the museum. So I spoke to Arlene, and we'll get her clearance into the airport, and she will take a look at these pieces that belong to the museum but are on loan to the city and see which ones need to be cleaned, because the airport administrator is kind of tired of seeing them look tired. And there's going to be a lot of construction in the airport, which means that the 4 Chihuly pieces that belong to the city will have to be moved, because that area on what's called the Sonny Bono concourse at the top of the escalator is going to be made into a bar, and they don't think that the Chihuly sculptures will work with it.
I don't think those Chihuly sculptures look very good as they are.
Right.
They're encased in these boxes, and they just don't have space. So
Right.
I think it affords a nice opportunity to reconsider where those might be placed.
And the museum has offered their Chihuly to the airport, which is a big, tall, it's currently a standing piece, but it could be possibly a chandelier-type piece. And so they're sort of discussing whether that would go in the other terminal. You go in and you turn right, the regional terminal, that maybe their Chihuly and our Chihulies could be displayed in such a way that they would be out of reach but would be visible more. So the construction will probably start after the season, at which point they'll ask us to take the Chihulies out. I don't know when they would go back in. But that's another thing we just need to.
So where would they go?
Well, they were talking about, where the, what's it called, what's the name of the piece we have on loan?
Crushing inertia.
Crushing
Up in the
inertia.
regional terminal.
Right. Which is suspended from it's not really a balcony, but it's an upper surround. The Chihulies could go, again, just out of reach, but visible. But I think we have to wait till they figure this out, what the construction's going to do.
So can I just ask about these loans to the Palm Springs Airport, which is run by the city, so it's on loan, these works
Right.
are on loan to the city. So as part of a past agreement, my understanding was that the city was to maintain these annually.
The city was to pay the museum $1,500 a year.
to maintain
To
them.
maintain them.
Okay.
But neither the payment nor the maintenance has been done in a couple of years.
Okay, so then what, you're showing us this because we would like to then have the art collective start to do that kind of maintenance
Right.
on this
And
as.
at very least,
Okay.
clean them and do the same kind of assessment they're doing on other ones. And I think that the airport would possibly like to swap some of them out for something new. But we put them in touch with the museum. And so it's an opportunity to put some new
Okay.
pieces there.
Okay, yeah.
But give them
just-
back nice and clean and
Right.
taken care of.
Yeah, it'd be great to see these taken care of as just in a basic way, so.
And then there's one piece that no one will claim responsibility for. It's the longhorn sheep,
Bighorn sheep.
bighorn sheep, which the airport has wondered if it might be ready to go to another pasture. So I think we could probably do that just to,
And who is that on loan from?
well, it probably belongs to the city, but it's not on the list of art. I think there was one of those,
There
like
was
the
a
cow parade,
project,
right?
yeah. And people could paint them and purchase them. It was like a fundraiser. It was like a long time ago.
Yeah. So,
We'd have to look it up, like what that project was.
right, and we'd have to figure out where to put it. And the other thing that's not on the master list is the John F. Kennedy bust that was moved a couple of years ago, but that belongs to the city. So they'll take a look at it.
That was conserved though, a couple years ago, right?
Yes, when it was moved, so.
Chair Sheffer, I unfortunately need to depart in about 8 minutes, and since we're in the report section, I was just wondering if I might just simply
I think that's
report
a good-
on
I think
the
that's a good
two
idea.
projects that we've had under discussion, so I apologize for the early departure today. But the Gerald Clark road signs, we do have approved language from the Agua Caliente tribe. We were able to meet with a few members of the cultural, we met with Kate Anderson, the Director of Marketing, and Patty, who works for the cultural heritage for the tribe. And they actually shared with us that they have developed a dictionary of words. So we were able to share the words that we're using. They sent back a couple tweaks and corrections. We were able to send the final designs back to them for a final okay. We will hear back by Friday. And so we expect to be able to order these early next week. So I'm hoping for an installation in mid-March. I will certainly keep everyone posted as to those final deadlines, final anticipated installation dates, but I'll be talking to our colleagues in the facilities department to arrange all of those times. So.
And we'll work on some publicity.
And work on publicity and all of that. And then it appears that the engineering for the Gonzalo Labria car, those conversations are still underway. They look positive, but they are still underway. So I'll keep you posted on that, but it is looking like we're getting closer to really understanding the structural needs for, and engineering needs for that, so.
Well, and we have now a structural engineer. We have Octavio from Grit Development, who knows what's underneath there. The artist, who had it installed in Denver, and they know what it takes. And so at least everybody's like all on the same email chain.
Yeah, all the parties who need to be involved are in conversation and know each other and are talking, actively talking, so it's all
So
moving
hopefully
forward.
it can be installed soon. And if you remember, we agreed to take care of the site preparation, which will be done by the city and charged to us. So we don't have to do any more, we don't have to do contracts or anything. They'll just pay for whatever needs to be done to brace it up or whatever.
So thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Madam Chair, I had a question.
You're so
Uh, Not about the Clark presentation. The art director, if that's the correct title at the airport, is it possible to get that person?
I wish it were an art director. It's the director of everything, which means that mostly he follows you around to make sure that, because you're in a secure area.
Yes.
So
Okay.
he's just voiced his opinion about which pieces he thinks.
Is it possible to have him come to a public
Yeah, right.
arts commission meeting to hear his or her vision at the airport for art, public art?
You know who
Well-
we might be able to get instead is the chair of the airport commission, who I think understands that, he's part of the city,
And
and that's Al Jones.
works
Right.
with the
And
director?
I think he would be, the director is really sort of
Yes.
much
Yeah.
more concerned with security and things than the art, but.
Yeah, I think, Commissioner Murray, because we did a couple of presentations for the crushing inertia installation with the Airports Commission, once we have sort of a vision of what we might want to do with all of the art that's there, moving, cleaning, whatever, is maybe start with the Airport Commission and with Al.
Right, but I'll bet
Yeah,
we
that
could
would
get
be
him
great.
to come
Yes.
to it, 'cause since they meet at 8 a.m. Though
That
they
would-
may have to change also, because,
Another tennis day.
And lastly, Madam Chair, we used to get a list of all of the art, public art in our possession, and the value of that, or the art, excuse me. Is there any way we can get that list again?
absolutely.
At some point in time.
In fact, I can give you one right now, and I can send everybody else one. The problem is that
Thank you.
it hasn't been updated in a few years.
I have this. I have
Okay,
this.
you have this?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to figure out some way that we can get it updated.
I'll wait for the email.
Wait for the,
Yes, thank you. I think I
wait
have
for
it.
the next installment, okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well,
Oh, can
I-
I ask a question about crushing inertia?
yes.
So that was 6 months. Is that 6 months almost up?
Almost the end of April.
Oh, I know.
But the last time I came through the airport, they hadn't put the signs up. And then the chair of the airport commission asked me if I knew if they'd been put up. And have you heard anything? I was sent a copy of what the sign was going to look like.
Oh, I assume that they were already up. I can reach out to Linda Maxon and
Why don't you
get a
ask them
status.
if they'd ever got put up? And if not, we should,
Oh, definitely, they need signage.
yeah. I think they were made, and they were supposed to go at eye level so that you would.
So were we ever able to get in there to take photos, to at least document the piece plus social?
Well,
Well,
there
we have
was
the
a
video.
video.
Did the
on-
video ever make it? Well, that should be on our
I-
website.
Right. It,
Yeah.
right, but she could put it on our website now.
Yeah.
And it was rather cool. It was how they installed it.
Do we need to document it though, because it would go prior to it going away? I know we never had a
Yeah,
Mm.
it's,
Right.
installation.
right.
you know,
It's
we never
pretty
had any
hard to
event
get,
because we couldn't get in
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I've
It's
actually
pretty
never
hard
seen
to
it.
get more than a couple of
there.
people at a time. Though we did have a dedication for the JFK bust, but that was a few years ago, maybe before they were quite so strict.
Is that on the inside or?
It's on the inside, and so is this. But we are going to try to install
Right.
the map.
So just a quick question about going back to the art that's at the airport, because they, whoever they are, have given some indication that they want to have some of the art changed. Because one of the art pieces out of our 30 by 30 art show, which I'm still determined that we'll move forward with, is the Richard Becker Tot. Ideally, it would be in a non-secure area so that everyone could see it. But if in the Sunny Bona concourse, if there's art that's currently there that they would like to see not there, then perhaps that's something we could address with the commission, let them know that we're considering changing out some of the art, and this is a piece that we are considering and want to proceed with, but want to find the location for it. An alternative for me would be at the visitor center. So that's something I would like us to
Right, you said-
explore. But
That's a
I
great
mean-
idea. And so could we ask them if they want to turn all of this back in? Which is, it's great, so change it up. Maybe they could include us in this discussion, and if we have some pieces around town that we want to move that are size appropriate, maybe this could be a more considered showing of art, because it looks completely hodgepodge to
Yeah.
me. It's like we have the stuff in storage.
Well, these are the
and-
ones that belong to the museum.
No,
And
no,
so
but
I,
we don't really need them, so we'll put them.
Right.
Like, it doesn't look considered.
right.
Like, we could actually have a show of art.
well, yeah, well, I think it's time for Palm Springs to have a very contemporary feel at the airport, because that's where we are now.
Also, the museum is happy to consider loaning something else.
Yeah,
if
loaning other
Right.
things.
So,
It looks like it needs to be refreshed. If they're refreshing the airport,
Yeah.
we could do something really exciting.
And even if they were open to a mural, especially by students.
yes, they did actually, well, that might be hard. It's that getting through security thing. But there is a wall that they talked about. I mean, again, this is the airport administrator just throwing out these ideas. Like,
Be
I've
nice
been
to
looking
have
at
them,
this
yeah.
blank wall for years, can you do anything about it? And some of the sculptures are just in sort of random places, they're tucked away somewhere. And that's not even counting the bust of Sonny Bono, which I don't know how obligated we are to keep that. But I think what we should do is, as soon as Arlene gets through with a list of all, exactly where things are and the condition of them, then I think we get the head of the airport commission really is the one who could make the decision about what goes there. It's really, Tom Nolan is to actually get it, people in there to take things out or put things in.
At one time,
In the lawn area there, there's that beautiful fountain, but there's a lot of space that we could be welcoming people with to town. That's exciting.
You mean outside of the,
Yeah, like
Yeah.
even, if we moved all three squiggles, I thought we should move them here, actually, I was gonna recommend that. There's so much space here at City Hall, and it's such an amazing building to highlight all the time. And, but there's also space there around the airport that we could really highlight, as people come in and out, and see, like locals would see it.
well, and speaking of the squiggles, I was thinking that perhaps we should solicit proposals for what to put on the Tockwitz median, since it turned out the Clements pieces were too wide for that. But that's another case of the first four things you see as you drive into the city. So what I think we need to do is, maybe what we'll do is, once we get the mini grants going, we do, a study session and decide. There's a group that would like to do an AIDS memorial, and it's working its way through the idea, but that could be a commission, and something for Tockwitz, and possibly something for in front of City Hall, though it's hard to sort of relate to the Bogart statue.
Yeah, I think perhaps if we do plan for another study session within the next couple of months, now that we're kicking off the neighborhood grant program, we should identify like the Tockwitz corridor, City Hall.
And maybe the airport.
And the airport as significant sites where we really need to get some spectacular art going on.
And maybe those pads, if we move those sculptures together, those pads become open for something more size appropriate.
Madam
Exactly.
Chair, I wanted to back up, if I may. The $1,500 for some years that was given to the museum for maintenance, on the airport pieces. Did they ever do the maintenance, the museum?
They did
Okay.
until a year or two ago. Unfortunately, Alicia Thomas, who just left the museum, was kind of the institutional memory. She'd done it all those years. But I went back to try to find,
Yes.
an up-to-date contract. And it was like, the last one was in about, 2000 for 5 years or something. It's just been left. So I would say they probably haven't been cleaned in a couple of years.
Oh, we need to do a new contract if possible.
Yes, or if we just
Yes.
do it,
This
you know,
whole time.
Yeah.
right, or
Like-
do it.
It's like they need a lot of dusting.
Well, they do, and if,
Yeah.
when you go to the airport, as you're walking by, you realize that they look
But,
kind
yeah,
of
but
tired.
if we continue to do what we're doing, looking after our art, which we should be doing, then there's no need for a contract. We're doing it.
Right, right. On the other hand, I think the museum's very interested in working with us, and they were suggesting maybe in front of the main entrance, outside on that grass, something like that windmill blade that's in the corner of the museum garden. It came from Desert X. Something like that as a sort of welcoming piece to, as you came. Okay, so are we caught up?
This could be very cool.
Okay. Well, I think what we can do is move right into the talk about how we're going to manage the mini grant program, and I think we could invite Sarah to come up here so she can. And here's some copies of this. And let me have one for Jay. But we do need some that don't say proof.
Yeah. Well, I think we presented here today, and then if anyone had any feedback or anything, and then we send it to
The printer. Yeah.
This hasn't changed since then.
yeah, well, we send it to Madalena to put up on the website,
Mhm.
and then we were talking earlier, we should get some printed
Yeah.
that we can use for outreach.
Mm-hmm. I think and the question is, do you want to do them on a little heavier stock? Do you want them glossy?
Oh, yeah, like some nicely printed.
Yeah.
Is that easy for us now to do, Jay, with you? Can we?
Yeah, especially if it's just, if it's under $1,000 or something, I think he can
Okay.
just do it.
Okay. All right, cool. So, yeah, let's just maybe.
Do you want to just walk through it?
So we did some outreach last week already. So we presented this, Russell presented it at 1 PS. I presented it at the Desert Highlands neighborhood meeting. And people were very surprised, I think. Don't you think they were really surprised that morning?
Delightfully surprised, yes.
Yes. They were like,
You want to give us
wow.
money?
Yeah. So, so I think they're really surprised and pleasantly surprised. So it's funny when you just go out and you talk, you hit this audience that you don't normally talk to, like the 1 PS meeting. Just looking at those sea of faces, it was like, wow. So, yeah, so it's cool. So hopefully they're interested in it. So we've worked through the text. We sent it out to Russell and Ann. So just, if you guys have any feedback on it, just let us know. So we've been working on the text, and I took a stab at writing it. So now we're at the stage where we have the material ready for Madalena to launch the website by March 1st. Sarah is working on the artist application. and the community application.
Can
So
you
once we
send
get a
us
proof of that,
the
yeah, we'll,
copies again, because I tried to look at it and it said I needed permission.
because it's a Google Doc.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we like run through it tomorrow or Friday and then send it out, like as a Word doc or something to everybody.
I think the part that we need just a little thinking about is a metric for how we're going to just judge these.
Yeah, yeah.
Either points or something, so that a committee or a jury or whatever you want to call it could score things and then just recommend to the commission that
Yeah,
this-
like I think we have to launch and then we have to do like our next steps, right? So
So we do
Sarah
have to
has,
tell them what they'll be.
yeah, Sarah's working on a bunch of text for like the factoid text on that. So that's a start on that. Then I think next week we need to get together and do what the next step would be. Like you apply, like how much we're going to make them go through before we kind of judge them, right? Like, do we want them to spend all this time getting an artist, getting a project up and running, and if it's something that really isn't going to work, it's kind of not worth.
Yeah.
I think it's like, some foundations want a letter of inquiry or a letter of intent.
Yeah, a letter of
It's like,
intent.
fill this out, this is what you'd sort of like to do, and then we were going to find them a commissioner to sort of work it through.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
the letter of intent to start out. Yeah, so then assign them a commissioner, do that initial meeting, and then that's the next step we would have to follow, like your realistic budget.
Right.
Will our grant like help do this completely? Is your neighborhood going to, do you have community involvement?
Right,
Is it going to be open to the public?
right.
Yeah.
And then, but I think if the commissioner who's working with them recommends it, then I think the rest of us should basically,
Yeah, I think as soon as we get the letter of intent from one of the community districts, that's filtered to one of us as on the commission, and we're certainly all well-versed and qualified to meet with them and say, oh, yeah, this will fly it, but you have to do X, Y, and Z, and then bring it to us for presentation, and then we take its action.
and I think, once a month at a meeting, we could just officially approve, like, these 4 are ready to go. But I don't think we need to have everybody in the commission, like, get into the weeds
Oh, no.
about what
I think it should be like commissioner recommended.
Yeah.
Or, commissioner approved, referring to us.
There we go. Go directly to consent calendar.
Go to-
Right,
Go
we'll
to
have our
vote.
own consent calendar.
Yeah, and then
We-
the commissioner gives the presentation with the people that want the money,
Right.
and then we vote on it.
And because each grant is no more than $5,000, originally, Dr. Eddy felt that we didn't need to get council approval. We didn't even need council approval for the idea because it was going to come in chunks. But I think we should probably report to them, in blocks of where things are going. I think that, from all of them that we've talked to, they really like the idea, and they want to know, one of the things we need to put is what district are you in,
Yeah.
and who's your council person? And not that this person should sign off, but you should tell them about it, and that would
Well,
be
one thing
really
we also
helpful.
learned is that not every neighborhood has a neighborhood council.
Right,
So that shouldn't stop anyone from getting a grant. So it would be, but 1PS could still give them the money because they're the controller of it, right?
right.
So we would just ask them for that information, like, are you, is your neighborhood in an association and some of them will go across districts.
Right, but there's like 50 neighborhoods, right?
I don't know, it seems it's a
Approximately.
lot of people. There were so many people at that meeting. There's like 2 from each
Well, and we
neighborhood.
can have, we can ask Denise to send this out as soon as it's ready.
She said she would send us a map too that showed where the districts are, and where they cross the neighborhood boundaries, so.
And then there's like, your neighborhood is like split in two anyway, right? You're saying Desert
Oh,
Highlands
district.
and.
Oh, Desert Highland Gateway Estates, yes, it's two sides, but it's one neighborhood.
Right, but I mean, they might have, I hope they don't have dueling programs or something. 'Cause,
There's one action committee that oversees it, as well as the Black History Committee. They work in tandem with each other in order to, agree on what pieces. I definitely have brought a couple of ideas to their attention, and they love it. So hopefully we can continue the dialogue and figure out what kind of pieces of artwork we can get out there in addition to the Gerald Clark.
Right.
Signs.
That'll be great. I think that I haven't seen the application form yet, but it should be relatively simple, just to, it's really a letter of intent. We want to work on this, and don't ask them to get ahead of themselves as far as thinking of all the things that have to be done, but.
Yeah, just think, like idea thinking, like the intent of the idea.
I think we just need sort of a checklist as to whether it does have a community group behind it, and whether, it has a realistic budget. And just a few things to make sure that it's something that will succeed. Now, what did we decide? The first deadline was May 29th.
And then we can do rolling voting, like you said, but then the last of the voting for the year would be in this fiscal year.
Mhm.
So we could vote on our June meeting.
So.
So hopefully people won't wait till May 29th, but people
Well,
may
does
have
it say
to.
somewhere that it's,
We can add that it can be a rolling. Well, we said the two rolling deadlines.
and two rolling deadlines, right?
So we could add, like, we can do, at their June meeting or prior meetings.
Well,
Like, we can kind of rework this text a little bit to say,
the question is, can someone start before June, or do you want to just say that?
Well, yeah, I think once we get all of the wordage for the flyer down and do the announcement once again through 1PS, we should encourage applications to start immediately.
Applications, yes, but should we say that, given all the hoops that all of this will take, that you should be planning programs that can start on June 1st?
well, maybe,
Or late,
that's probably a good idea, don't you think?
I mean, and it's summer, it's like a summer in the park kind of.
Are we gonna give 1PS, like, all of the money? Say, okay, here's 60 grand. If we don't use it, maybe we roll it over.
I think
No,
it's
I-
better
So-
to keep it in our budget, because we do roll over.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so all they have to do is each time, like 1PS is going to pay out
So
some
we
money,
would
they
pay
just
them
charge
onesie by
it.
onesie, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
project.
We're one of the very few budgets that doesn't expire.
Yeah, then we definitely want to keep our money.
So, okay, so I'm just trying to think if there are any other, I want to make it simple for people, and then we'll just keep,
I think we need to send this to Denise also, and then go meet with her and kind of determine, like, how she, like, once we approve these, what's gonna be her step in dispersing, and if there are any rules attached to that or something.
In 30 seconds or less, can you just explain group proposal deadlines? Application group number one,
Well, because we said at some other meeting, we said we'd do them in groups, so we'd have two deadlines, so we
Yes, I
would get
understand.
started.
but I think that
But-
it's misleading. It's like there's a group of,
Oh, yeah, we can change the wording.
yeah,
so
I
no
would
problem.
say,
or in the
grant
narrative?
proposal, May 29th for projects beginning June 1st, and then August 28th for projects beginning September 1st. So that's the very latest you can apply.
Yeah, like the August 28th date then hits our September meeting to vote on
Right.
things.
And this would hit our June meeting,
Yeah.
right?
So where are you saying groups then?
It's just where you have the
Application
deadlines. It
group
says,
number one.
Well,
is
can't we
that-
just take group
Yeah,
number
maybe
one?
we
and-
just
it's
change
just
the
the word
word.
group.
Exactly.
we just
It
change the
sounds
word.
like
Yeah.
there is a group of people that are
Yeah.
going to get to
Right.
apply.
Unless you had it in the narrative up top
Yeah.
somewhere, group number one explaining what that is. That would be kind
But,
of
you know,
confusing.
you can't underestimate the ability of people to get lost in the text.
Exactly.
It's-
Exactly.
I mean, this, you know,
And Madam Chair, if I may, you shared with Tracy and I the New York program from the DOT, Department of Transport, I guess, whatever it's called.
oh,
On-
that, with the
Yeah.
bike lanes?
Yeah. Did you have a chance, because on their, I printed out part of their temporary art overview thing, but they seem to have a very easy to fill out application
Oh,
and
great.
field.
We should
So
look,
it's
I
just-
Oh,
just
yes,
looked at the
we-
photo, I didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, check out the application process. It seemed
Okay.
very user-friendly.
That's great.
Yeah, we definitely want
That's
it to be
great.
user-friendly.
And lastly, do you think you should include one PS somewhere in here?
We
Just
do.
a question.
Maybe we could just call them our partner or
Yes.
something, because
Well, we
it's
have under the
possible that
go-to.
a group
Where is
that's
it?
not part of 1PS could, well, here
Under
it says
our
we're working with
website?
1PS.
Oh, the
Yeah, because
website.
they're identified as our fiscal sponsor,
Okay.
dispersing the money.
I didn't see
Is
that.
I
right?
don't know if that's technically
Didn't see it.
what they are.
Well, they're not, yeah, that's, they're,
Yeah, it's an act, it means one something, right, or our neighborhood something, or, we'll find out what it,
yeah,
what the
whatever the
acronym-
term would be.
You know, we're
acronym is.
partnering with them, correct?
Well, we're not, I wouldn't say we're partnering, but they are going to,
We're working with them, do you want to just say? They're going
yeah, they're
to,
going to disperse the funds,
Yeah.
so.
and it
Yes,
does
that's
say
probably
that.
sufficient explanation.
But again, you know, it's.
I think they have a lot on their plates, I don't know if they.
But we do now have an email address, right? Now, who's going to answer those emails?
What do we think?
I mean, there's going to be questions about everything that's in here.
One PS. Let
Right.
them answer.
No.
Madalena was gonna set that up, right? The email, yeah.
Do we have it? Do we have an email address, or she?
I think she was gonna set it up, 'cause she said by Tuesday.
She said by Tuesday that she would set everything up, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Tuesday of next.
Yeah. Next.
So, yeah, we should figure out that, like, who wants to, do we all just have access to the email box, or do we wanna have
I
things
think that
sent
would-
some
But I
person's way?
think, send the Google Docs to everyone, including put this back on. And so everyone can just read it again and see. And I think maybe Sarah should answer the questions for now. So,
Well, yeah, because if there's any specific question that we on the commission should be addressing, you can just forward it to
Yeah.
the
right,
appropriate
but it's
one of
going to be
us.
like, what if I'm not a this, but I want to do that, you know? Or at least, you know, that might be the way somebody writes and says, we're ready to do a project, who should we work with or
Yeah.
something? And then you could send it around. I mean, we want to make it simple, but knowing that at some point it's going to have to go through the city, you know, writing a check and all of that. It has to be,
Right.
you know,
Like
just,
a functional project.
right,
That
right,
gets completed.
And they may want stats too, the city.
right.
So does everybody want to be a commissioner of record, to be participating in helping the groups?
Of course we all do.
Sure.
I would
why we're
enjoy
here.
that immensely.
Just want to make sure.
Okay. And 1, 2, 3.
We'll have to ask Mara.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, we'll
I don't
ask-
want to call it a committee, because then it's a real committee. So it'll be, like pairs of people, sort of, depending on which neighborhood you live in.
Yeah,
Yes?
maybe we,
I mean, we can't, if we have a 4-person committee, then we have to.
no, I think it should just be onesie twosies, like maybe
Yeah.
we get this request and then we send it out to everybody and say, hey, does someone have a strong desire to work on this project? And someone does, if someone doesn't, and just, and then that commissioners is the liaison for that project.
Well, and luckily, it sounds like Desert Highlands could come up with one fairly soon, and Main Street for one of the business ones. So, we might start with the 1 or 2 where that we know there's a group already. I don't know. Al, do you have a group that you think would be?
I think Shonda, I'll support and work with
Okay,
you.
well then,
That
yeah.
neighborhood and
Why don't you guys see if you can, they can be our, first
First one out.
project, because
Our first push to success.
Well, it'd
That'd
be
be
great,
great.
yeah, to have the clubbers or have a neighborhood one and a merchant one happening at the same time would be kind of cool.
And then
Okay.
whoever needs help, just reach out to the commission and say, hey, I need more help, or I don't need
Now,
help.
the other thing I'd like to see us do is on the artist part of this, I think it's like, this is information for, one part is information for neighborhoods, and then the other part is information for artists. And there, somebody like Patrick could say, I'm available to work with a neighborhood group to do a mural that involves the kids painting. So we ought to have, it's not just somebody who wants to create a sculpture to put somewhere. On our website, these are people who want to work with a neighborhood. And then this registry that we did before through call for entries, I think can be used for any sorts of projects
Specific
we,
project.
and it sounds like we might do something for the Tuckwitz meeting, maybe for the airport, and just those, and we can use the, this website for call for entry to send an email to everybody who participated in the 30th anniversary. So that, that would give them the opportunity to re-up their.
Yeah, and on our registry, that should be a segment that they fill out, like, are you interested in working in this mini grant program?
Right, and that.
And like, what would you,
Right.
tell us your idea behind that?
Right, and that, it should be, on the website, it should really just be people who want to do something with.
Or want work, because we had said we wanted to really promote Valley artists to the rest of the valley, so.
But they have to be someone who's willing to do it in a mini grant fashion, which means working with a neighborhood group.
Yeah, I'm kind of sure all of them probably won't want to.
But we should make
Yeah.
it clear that
Right.
we're not going to, as a commission, we're not going to, put a new sculpture at the airport or something that they're applying for. This is.
Oh, no, it's just for you as
For
an
the-
artist to put yourself out there to advertise your
Right.
desire and skills to do public art.
Right, with.
No promises.
For a mini grant at this point. Don't put your name there if what you want is for us to buy a $150,000 sculpture from you, because it won't get you.
So, Madam Chair, so let me be clear. So there's a registry,
Yeah, that's been
And-
part of the
yes.
whole plan.
Yeah.
and I lost my train of thought. And the 1PS may have a different artist, or one who's not registered to be the artist.
First of all,
So
I think we
that door is
should.
open.
I think we should avoid the word registry on our
Okay.
website. It
Yes.
should be artists who sign up to say they'd love to work on this kind of neighborhood grant. But if a neighborhood finds another artist, that's fine.
Ultimately, it's their choice. That's what I'm
Right.
asking.
But if they
The
don't know
neighborhood.
where to start, we
Right,
say, take
right.
a look.
Got it, got it.
Here's, Tyson Knight has done
it,
benches, and
got
this
it.
person does murals, and this person does, like performance art that ends up in a sculpture, something like that. The woman who loaned us the greetings big billboard that came from the La Quinta Arts Festival, they have an artist that they were all set to do a mural while someone composed music to go with it. And then the wall wasn't available. Something happened. So she wanted to know if we could accommodate an artist next week. Did we have a wall? And then we said, well, tell us a little more about it, and we haven't heard back. But it's nice to have a place to go look for art. And as I say, Patrick, for example, should put something on this artist column that says, hey, I'll help you do a mural where the kids really do it, which is another way to go.
Yeah. Last question, I
Yeah.
promise. Does a labyrinth qualify?
Does the labyrinth qualify?
And just something to think about. I think it should. There may
Is
be a
this
neighborhood.
someone
No.
making a new one? No, I'm just saying, yeah, I don't see why
Okay.
not.
All right.
I mean, we want projects that a neighborhood group wants to do. And if
Right.
they want something where everybody, brings a rock and it turns into a sculpture, or a mural, or benches, or, street lights or
Got it.
something,
Got
and
it.
We
it's
want
different
people
for
to use
each.
their imagination.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Right,
Excellent.
and mainly, I think we'll end up paying the artist, and the neighborhood group will need to come up with maybe some of the supplies, or at very least the organization, the volunteers, whatever you need to do it.
Thank you.
So, which I think makes sense for an arts commission, is we pay the artists. And so, does anyone have any more?
A little a side note just on that, since we
Yeah.
just talked about rocks. At the Tucson Botanical Garden, they have about 40 different gardens. They're all themed. And one of them is this, maybe it's called a memory garden. And it's all rocks that people have brought and painted on. And then they just, it has this one space, it's kind of surrounded by trees, it's like elevated. And it's gravel in the center, and then the public just has created this whole rock garden there of whatever they feel on these rocks. And it was really a wonderful, lovely garden. It's the first time I'd seen something like that was so community-oriented. It wasn't just, someone did it. It was
Right.
just all community
Well,
participation.
I think there's a school in the valley that has done a project like that. But, I read about a project where in a park there were like laurel trees or something that had to be cut down. And so they had this giant pile of branches, and they invited everyone to come over and create a sculpture out of them, sort of weaving them together, and, and then they were able to keep them. But something participatory would be great. And we just need, we need some artists to come up with some cool ideas, and, or neighborhood people. So I think it will work. We just have to, we have to make it easy to apply, and then we really have to just have someone help each group.
And really just make sure, I think it should be totally out of the box. People use their imagination, but we always have to remind them it has to be for the public.
Right.
Now, quick question about being for the public. So, for instance, with the James O. Jesse Unity Center, that is a Parks and Recs. Would we have to get permission from Parks and Recs to do a mural on that wall, or is that something that How would that
I
coincide with
think
making
that-
it?
We have to ask the professor here.
Actually, I think that that's a question that we should pose to the city council for these kinds of low-key community projects, some of which are not meant to last forever anyway. So I think what we need is to agree on a sort of category of projects that,
Like go on city property, like if we want to ask, since
Right.
it's city property, we
Right.
can have a wall.
right. And, the murals that we've commissioned on, like in the pit, they decided that we didn't need to go through the mural process because it's in a pit and it's one
we
day
were
going to
doing
be covered up.
Yeah, because leading on to that, something I wanted us to
That's a
start to
really good
consider
question,
is creating a category of temporary art that's not meant to last longer than about a year.
Right.
That we can do easily and quickly just with our commission approving it and paying for it. Because we've missed a couple of opportunities to do murals, these people that were showed up a week ago, and there were a couple of other instances over the last year that had we been able to approve them, we would have had some cool murals. So, and that's taken from the project that you sent us the link to. That's sort of one of their categories, is viewing this as temporary art, not meant to be maintained or last longer than a year, that we can just approve and do. But we would have to sort of work that into our
Right. Let me
mural
see if
ordinance
I
or
can,
something.
you're right. I've been taking notes on things that need to be changed, if we
Good.
can, on the mural ordinance, so that it just doesn't, it's better than it was, but it's still, but the fact is, we're supposed to approve them, and then it's supposed to be, sort of not rubber stamped, but just the city council needs to agree that, we had a public hearing and all of that. But again, I think a category for temporary installations, especially on private property, if some people have not wanted murals on their buildings because they're supposed to keep them, for like several years now and maintain them. And then there's the murals where the building's been sold and they're peeling and, so I think now we've had 2 years of this mural ordinance and we can point out the things that we'd like to
Make
have
some
changed.
changes, yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think
'cause-
the thing to do is we'll take them a package of changes and see if they'll do it.
Because that mural ordinance is really going to affect probably this project. So we kind of
And
don't want these pieces to go through the mural
No,
ordinance.
that's the thing. So let's see
To
if we
save money
can,
and time.
let's see if we can get some sort of a exception for these. And then we'll try to write it into the,
Like, as long as they kind of follow, maybe they follow all the ordinance rules, but it's one-stop shopping, like they just get approved here, and then they don't have to go through the whole sending.
right. Well, and I think that they
neighborhoods.
probably should be approved by the neighborhood group. So
Yeah,
not
and then they
just
go
one
to the city
person, right?
council,
Because
yeah.
if we held a public hearing about a mural at Desert Highlands, then
Mm-hmm.
we would want people from Desert Highlands to be the ones who spoke up, for it or against it. So if that's been done by the fact that people were involved, and then it
Well,
comes here,
Yeah,
it
because
should be.
that'll be one of our roles as the commissioner working with whatever neighborhood it is to have assurance from them that it is the whole community that's, or at least a majority of the community that is
Right.
supporting of this, and it comes to us, and we know that it's got the neighborhood approval.
Right. So, and as it is, the mural ordinance doesn't really, we ran into this a couple of times, it doesn't quite cover if the Arts Commission, if it starts with the Arts Commission as opposed to ending up there. So
Right.
that, I think that's what we need to clarify, is that we get to do these short-term ones.
Maybe as part of the application, or as part of the working with the commissioner approval process, we tell the groups that they have to have a neighborhood outreach meeting.
Okay.
So then we know that they had a meeting, they asked the community, hey, yay, nay, you hate it, you love it. And then that we can use, because part of the whole mural ordinance is you have to mail to the entire community, but it's very costly. And then we've been paying a lot of the mural fees, but then the mural fee is costly. So if we could have community input and kind of guarantee that to the city council, then we can maybe,
Right.
create a new path for the grants to be able to include murals.
Yeah, because actually in San Francisco, when working with the San Francisco Arts Commission, that's actually the process that we used, is once we showed them that it had been on a neighborhood agenda with community input, they accepted that there was never any mailing.
And I think,
Plus, it's good.
I think
Yeah.
One PS has a magazine that they put out.
They
and-
do.
And maybe we need to get this in their magazine about the mini grant.
Yeah, it's next year, I think.
Yeah, I think it's only,
Once a
comes
year.
out once a year.
yeah.
But they do send out an email newsletter every week, and it's got
Excellent,
like
yeah.
everything that's going on, every kind of event, and so that'll be good. All right, well, we should
This was
probably,
exciting.
it is. So I think what we should do is, if you can send all these things to everybody, just to, tell them how to get on the Google Docs. And everybody should proofread it and just make sure it's internally consistent.
Yeah.
And then we'll give it a try.
And then if something is glaring and we're getting complaints about, we can just, update on the fly. And I
Right.
think we should just always just have the dates, whatever update date, add to every document, so.
That's a good idea. Okay.
But that's really a good discussion about the murals. Because
Yeah.
we've been encouraging it, and that could be a little
Okay.
roadblock.
Yeah,
Totally.
okay. Okay, so I forgot one thing on the update on the maintenance program, and that is that I got an email from Ann Rowe, who was the,
Thank you.
okay, are we done with murals? Yes?
Are we?
Would you like to
anything
leave?
else you want to do?
All right.
Sarah has another meeting. she has
Oh,
to-
okay. That's great. Thank you, though. That's,
Thank you.
anyway, I got an email from Ann Rowe, who was the chair of the Public Arts Commission when the totem at Victoria Park was completely redone because it had had sprinklers on it for 20 years. And we had the sons and grandsons of the Hunt family that made it, came and restored it, which was great. They were here for an event at Sunnylands because they also have a totem, and they drove by their one in Victoria Park and announced that it is infested with insects.
No, it has been for a while.
Right. So Anne suggested that we should so I've asked Arlene to send someone over to do a conservation assessment. I mean, how bad it is. Anne's suggestion was that, I think maybe the family's suggestion was that maybe it should be put somewhere indoors and either replaced with another one or, I don't know, a replica or something. However, if it really is infested, nobody's going to want to put it indoors, so we're going to have...
Yeah, we need to fog it. I was going to work on that with Michael.
Okay, yes.
With Mike Hammond, if you want to send me her.
Well,
details. I
yeah.
think we need to,
We need someone
need
to
to-
tell us how bad it is.
yeah, and we need to, all of these issues we're having with art or irrigation
Yeah,
is just.
except for the mural at Desert Highlands, which is.
Yeah, or just
Is another case
hard,
of.
harsh desert
We
environment.
just don't know what to, it's hard to know what to do
Well, the
about
totem
it.
pole, could that be a mini grant that pays for that and takes care of that?
Well,
Oh, we
it
should just
could,
do it
it's
as a
just we have to
commission.
find out what, how bad it is. Does that mean we need to take
We
it
have to
down again?
rethink the
And
totem pole.
Yeah, I understand.
on the other hand, if, it doesn't seem to have weathered badly, so if the insects can be killed, and if we're sure there's no more
That we just call turbidites?
irrigation,
Might have a
Well, it's the
protest.
second, this is an additional infestation because it was taken care of prior. So, whatever,
I hope there's no sprinkler on it after, we tried and tried to get them not to. I
it's,
don't know.
when you scrolled through the list, it's like scale, 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 scale. It's like all from calcium in our irrigation system. And the air, the water shouldn't be hit, and then things are rusted, like the bases are rusted, so that's one thing we really need to kind of site visit and work with the facilities department to kind of
Took a long
either
time to
maybe
get
move
any of it
things
turned
or
off.
yeah, or remove grass a certain distance around. So because it's nobody's fault, it's kind of like maybe someone just plopped these things, like the totem poles in such an odd location. It's kind of like someone plopped it there.
Okay, all right. So we have one last thing to do, which is an action item. We talked about this last time, and we voted that we would like to keep our meeting time at 4 o'clock. And so I checked with the city clerk, and he said that we had to write a letter asking for a waiver or an exception to the policy that they set, the city council set, that said that you couldn't start before 5:30. And so I just wanted everyone to see this draft of a letter, which says that if we did have a public hearing or something on the agenda that was likely to need public comment, that we would hold that till the end of the meeting, and we would make sure that it was publicized. But that, for example, Mara, to begin with, cannot stay. Today was only because she thought it started at 3 o'clock, but she can't stay past 5:30 or 6 because she has to pick up her kids. And the policy says that if changing to later than 5:30 would make it difficult for a commissioner to attend, or they would have to resign, then we can ask for a waiver, at least through the end of this year. But Mara's actually got 2 years left, or she's not done till 2021, so.
So they're really going to make commissioners resign?
No, they're saying if it would lead to someone resigning, they will,
okay.
they'll
I'm
give us a
sorry.
waiver.
I'm sorry. Oh, well, that's very nice, then.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
So we can definitely have one until the end of June.
Can we just add to the letter that we do a lot of community outreach at the museum that's after, from 4 to 9, or, that we have a lot of study sessions that are in the community? Like we do, I think we do this more than a lot of other commissions.
Okay, we can
Yeah.
add that.
Well, yeah, and we are actually now interacting with more neighborhood associations, Airport Commission, 1PS.
Right, but it is true that because the museum is open on Thursday nights, we have been doing programs and things there.
And we've done a
Okay,
lot of study sessions there,
Right,
and we've done them at
which
the
reminds
Desert
me
Art
of one
Center.
thing I forgot to bring up, and that is, do you still want to do an art show at the museum if all they can give us is the
Wouldn't-
education room, which is, it's down below off the terrace? I don't think it would make any sense because it's not open.
Yeah, the best idea is October. Because then we'd have these things.
Right. Did they say October was possible, or,
We had, who had we asked?
well, did you get the letter from Rochelle?
Yeah, I'll just respond to that then.
Okay, tell her that we'd do it in October.
But we could do, I was talking to Sarah about it, we could also take that opportunity, maybe, and do some really cool public programming that's very short. Like, we could invite, if it's one of the Thursdays, and we could do kind of a pop-up public arts program. So we get it in before the end of the year.
We could, as a matter of fact, Ryan Campbell starts a, month-long public.
Artist in
He's the artist
Yeah.
in residence, and before that it was Tyson. So
Tyson,
they're,
Yeah, we've been
They're kind
throwing
of
some ideas around, so maybe we could try to
Right.
get that time and October.
the trouble is that space is, nobody can find it.
Oh, no, not for October, but just for like a small, short-lived pop-up.
In
Public
in
art
that
event.
space.
Yeah. Like a one-night thing or
Well,
something
we
like
could,
that.
but have you seen the space?
And where's the
Yeah.
space?
It's currently set up for board meetings. There's just a gigantic,
Where's this, Madam Chair?
table.
Where's the space again?
it's, if you go
Isn't it
down
the
the
one
stairs
where-
like you're going
Yes. The
down
art
to,
room?
right, and
Oh, okay.
it's off to the left.
So we could think,
They're
we
sort
could
of
talk
moving
about it.
education to there.
Oh, really?
But we should, it's also now Rochelle who's in charge of it, so we should maybe go over and talk to her, because I thought that she didn't understand what we
Yeah.
were trying to do.
I was trying to figure out what that space was. I had no idea what it was.
Yeah, it's,
But I thought the
I went to a meeting in there once.
I know,
and
it
it's
is
really-
the
I
education
thought
space,
Sheffer was
but
dedicated to arts education.
it is, but I don't know what they have in there in June, which
Oh,
was
I
when
see.
we asked for some,
Yeah, June, they had
dates.
told, last year, they had booked it in June. So I didn't know they had it the whole month, but,
okay, we'll get back to her.
Okay.
Is there anything else? This is the time for,
Oh, excuse me, going back to the
Commissioner.
draft for the action item, are we supposed to
Yeah.
vote on this?
yeah?
We don't need a vote. do
We
Madam
voted
Chair?
last time, so.
Oh, yeah, as
um,
long as we've got that covered, it still was on the action item, so.
We could do it. May I have a motion to approve sending this letter asking for an exception to the meeting time?
But
I-
Tracy wanted to add that there was
yeah,
the meeting
I would
times.
I can do that.
propose, make a motion to propose we send this letter to the city council with the addition of our ongoing public outreach to the community
Okay,
through study sessions
Mhm.
and et cetera.
okay. And also, social media, which I don't think any other
Yeah,
commission does.
we are open for business.
And still, very few people come.
Yeah.
Okay, any other commissioner comments or?
Yes. Yes, I have
requests? Yes.
something. When I was at the city council meeting, there was,
Did we get a motion on that last?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
We had a motion. Will someone second
Second.
it? Okay. All in favor of asking for this waiver
Aye.
with the
Aye.
corrections?
Thank you.
Thank you for getting
Well, actually,
were
it's the
testing,
city
Jay.
clerk who's very nice. I wrote and said, what do we do? And he said, here's what you do. You write a letter and, they'll consider it. So,
going back to what pieces of art that we have to update that list, there was a question that came up at City Council that there was a piece missing. I believe it was Gene Autry and Sunrise, and when I went by there, I couldn't figure out exactly where they were talking about. But I did notice that Gene Autry and I want to say Vistacino, there's something that was supposed to be there that isn't there. So there's a question that at that city
Jean
council.
Autry and Vistacino. By
Do the two
corner
meet?
of the airport?
Yes.
By
Yeah.
Asina?
That there's a
There is-
pad there, but there's no art there. They're saying that there's
I
a
think there's been a
missing,
pad there.
piece
and
of
no
art.
Yeah, there's no art there.
okay.
Right.
But there is art at
Gene
Vista
Autry and
Chino, I mean-
Ramon, right?
Gene
No,
Autry and Ramon, is that what you said?
Yeah,
Gene Autry, and I think it was Sunrise, but maybe
They don't
it's the piece
Oh,
that
they
it's
don't intersect.
remote.
But there is one at Gene Autry and Ramon,
right.
and I think it's called the Sunrise Center, that, where the Home Depot is. And there's this.
It's called Red something, Red.
Yeah, there's this
Yeah.
red sculpture.
Because one of the commissioners brought up that they said that a piece of art was missing in their neighborhood that was there before, and it was missing.
Really?
So it was
Okay.
something that it was said at city
Which
council.
commissioner?
This was actually Councilman Wood mentioned it at the end of the last council meeting, that he would like to ask the Arts Commission to look into
Something in his
placing
neighborhood.
art.
Yeah,
in
that's what
the,
this letter
okay,
is.
okay.
But it's not from him, it's from, he lives in Little Tuscany.
Okay, and we've had those discussions about what to place on the Tockwitz median.
Right.
Or where there are pads. And I would assume that's the same case for Autry at Vista Chino, so just south, which is what he mentioned, that we may have had the pads installed, but not necessarily an art piece, so.
Right,
I
and
think
I-
he's just wanting to know if Arts Commission.
Partly because every idea we've had for an art piece there got shot down by someone, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, 'cause it also
And we did
involves
try to
the
move Gene
airport.
Au- We tried to move Mayor Bogert there, among other places. No one wants him, it's very sad, except Jackie Autry.
I am excited to do not to interrupt your thing, but to do a call for the Tockwitz pads, so we
I
can
think
get
that
something
will
the
be
right
good.
size.
And, you know, we can, Little Tuscany, and, you know, that sounds like we just need to recommend that they have a neighborhood group, that they
They've
work out
requested.
a request for help, basically, and then maybe look at the artists we have, or, you know, put out a
Oh, so
put out
they
a
want a
call.
piece of art for their neighborhood.
But
They
did-
want
Does Little
traffic
Tusk-
calming
oh.
pieces.
And did they say specifically where? Because that's the neighborhood on the other side of Vista Chino from where I am.
They just would like to know how they could apply for art pieces in our neighborhood. I think what I did was I told,
I told them about the grant program at the dinner.
yes, and also I mentioned what's his name, Jeff Howe, the one who wanted to have to loan the two sculptures to,
Oh, right.
that he wanted to put them on the Tockwitz median, but, you know, we should at least show these things to someone like Little Tuscany, maybe they'd like them. They're also interested in them as sort of a traffic calming, you know, sort of narrow the road, or,
He did that in Santa Monica. So that was a project he did in Santa Monica, was traffic calming with
well, and
sculpture.
there's one, of course, there's the speed humps they put in on El Paseo with daisies on them and stuff, and everybody, yeah, they're not very popular. They keep saying, it's just a pilot program, it's just a pilot program, but they didn't.
I don't think it makes it any happier to go over the speed bump.
No, just because it has daisies on it, right. Okay, well,
We
let's
Let's
try to
move to
find
my
out.
neighborhood
I
then.
interrupted you, so finish your
Can
thought.
you,
Oh,
can
that-
you find
that-
out if it was the one that's like on the corner of the airport?
Okay, I believe I'd
That
have
would
to.
be Gene
That's-
Autry and Vista Chino.
And Vista Chino.
No,
There's
it's not.
sort of a grassy knoll.
No, that's Farrell and Vista Chino.
Oh,
Across where the Palm Springs sign is? Is it? I drive by these corners all the time, I never know which one. is which.
isn't Asina, though, on
Asina
the
would be-
right, and then you get to Vista Chino,
Yeah, from Gene Autry.
and I think that's also a
There's a
corner
pad
of
up
the
there somewhere.
airport.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
I
because it
bet
would be
there
the top
wasn't
corner,
one
this is
there.
the bottom corner.
Yeah, and I think it's the one that doesn't have a sign that says,
Right.
welcome to Palm Springs. That was another suggestion, but we're not really in the, like, welcome to
There
Palm
is a
Springs.
pad at Indian Canyon and the street you turn on, I think, for James
I think
O'Jesse.
Councilman Woods was saying it was someplace that was close to his neighborhood.
Yeah,
I believe
he lives
in
in
the-
Little Tuscany. So.
Yeah. So, but I think all the pads, I think he was trying to call to attention, not speaking for him, call to attention that the pieces of these pads, it'd be nice to have pieces of
Right.
artwork.
Oh, yeah.
on
We should tell him,
these.
though, that they're
Yeah,
not
we've been-
missing. They just never, they never appeared.
They're in
we've
our
been
storage.
we've been working on trying to get stuff done. For
And
this.
also at the James O. Jesse Unity Center, there is I'm not sure if it's a part of the pieces that we own, that it's like paper airplanes almost up on, if that is a part of the public arts, or if that's something that's a part of the Unity Center, or if that's something that's a part of Parks and Recs. Because it looks like it should be on the agenda for maintenance, because the paint is fading and it's deteriorating also. And that would be really nice to get that updated, especially since it's right there at the front
There's a,
entrance of the Unity Center.
Yeah, it doesn't ring
There's a
bell.
plaque there onto a rock, but there's nothing specifying what the piece of artwork is.
It's red, black, and green.
Yes, it's a red, black, and green
Any idea? And
paper airplane type
this
structure.
is interesting. I had forgotten this has maintenance reports as one column, condition reports, but it
Oh,
seems
yeah,
to be
it definitely
dated
needs it.
2016.
So one question when we were doing the Gerald Clark sightings and overlooking at the mural, is that, and then I brought it up at the meeting, because I really do think we should do something about that mural, but it depends on what the community wants.
And the artist.
From what I understood, the community wants it restored, and from what I heard was that the artist, it was
artist didn't want
extremely
anyone else to do
expensive
it.
in order to do. Sitting here, I thought maybe there was maybe some way that we could put lights onto it that shoot the colors onto it, or some kind of solution, because it is extremely heavily faded, and the community doesn't want to lose that particular piece because it has so much history. A lot of kids that worked on it are now adults, and I think it would be great for the neighbor to have their children work on restoring it, but it doesn't seem like that's something the artist wants. But that's what the community
I'm
wants.
not even sure that he's still alive. I mean, that was.
He's
I know
alive.
he was
Yes,
sick.
you've-
He was sick, but I'm not sure.
So you don't
Do you
think
know
the
who, I mean, do
community
you
would?
know him? Do you know who? have you-
No, I don't, I can't think of his name, I don't know him personally,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
think there's a record of, somewhere, of what maintenance is written, of what maintenance is needed, and how much it would cost, et cetera. I don't know where we would find that. At some point in time, Lewis at the museum recommended a preservation group coming in. They have access to some of that. You know, that was just a conversation with the CEO. I agree, it's historic, it needs to
Can
It
you
needs
check
to
the
be-
files?
Yeah, I think it was like
Because we spent-
$150,000.
$125,000, I think
Yeah.
is what it was.
But
But it looks good to me. I mean,
The community doesn't agree that it looks good. It's
Okay.
really heavily faded.
yeah.
so
And-
sometimes,
I only see it at night, I guess.
Yeah, because when you
yeah,
pull
during
up,
the day, it's just.
through the day,
And
it's
that's like
very,
what you walk up to when you go there, and, I mean, you could also paint over it with something new that the community is really involved in.
But there's a contract, we need to have something in writing.
yeah, it's
murals-
just when I
murals don't
suggested the
always-
mural to be redone or removed, or maybe like a canvas put over it and another mural put up, the community is extremely attached to that particular piece. So whether we formulate some kind of fundraiser or some kind of festival around it in order to raise the funds to update and to restore that piece, the community would be extremely appreciative, because it's something that that it's the first thing you see when you come up to the center.
I have a suggestion. on behalf of the community or the director, whoever, you know, send a letter to Jay requesting the files on what was, you know, what the discussions were about, whether it could be restored, what it would cost, you know, and if it's important enough to the community, one possibility is that we could pay some of it and we could try to raise some of it, I think. Or we could go to the city council and we could say, this is something that you need to fund half of it or something. So, because it is an important piece. My understand that, you know, there's a lot of federal law now about artist rights. You can't change or destroy a piece of art, especially public art, without at least giving the artist the first opportunity to either take it away or fix it or whatever. But it's probably about 3 or 4 years ago that we went through this, I mean, probably a half a dozen meetings. So it went over, you know, 6 months. And so I think the best thing is for the community to ask Jay if he can find the records of what the artist proposed, and then if the community really wants the city to do it, then as I say, I think we can't pay the whole thing, but it's certainly worth going to the city council for a special appropriation.
Maybe we
to
could
do
use
this.
some Measure J funds, or, I think that mural either has to, from my point of view, if that matters at all, either has to be restored or it has to be painted over with something that's really dynamic and exciting for this day and age.
By a new generation of artists and kids. I mean, so, but it's up to the community, I think, to
Right.
But whatever
decide. But if
happens,
it's, you know, we did hit sort of a dead end on fixing that, and it apparently was once touched up, not to the satisfaction of the artist. Someone painted,
yeah, you can see on the bottom.
Didn't know that.
yeah, so that's why it's kind of tricky. And, you know, the John Clements piece are also tricky because they were on loan from a gallery in Canada that went out of business, and then it was a question of who did they belong to, and, you know, so they haven't been painted in a while either because.
And they just look horrible.
I
They're
know.
just,
So we have to, it's really just, you know, it's practically a full-time job to just maintain the art we have, forget about doing any new stuff, but.
yeah, we're trying to, like, over the past few years, because our environment is such a struggle, we are trying to factor that in on new pieces, right? So if your mural is on a western wall.
Right, but there was
'Cause
a wonderful
that's
mural
always
at
gonna
the
be the
Cultural
issue with that.
Center that completely just fell off. I mean, it was on paper, glued to the wall, and it looked wonderful for a while, those photographs, and then, so they just ended up taking it off. That artist said, fine. I mean, that's sort of, she wanted it to be
Temporary.
temporary.
Yeah. But our public, you know, even though that's how we had approved it and everything, the general public thought, oh my God, what, isn't that horrible that this thing completely is faded
I
and
know,
fallen
and Mara
off
tried
the
to tell
wall.
her.
She did.
So anything that happens to that wall, like, we have to, it has to be addressed, like how it will be maintained, right? Like, does it need a shade structure? Does it need, how it could be stabilized, you know? so-
Like a heat-resistant paint like you would put on barbecues or something like that, because that's what kind of temperature is coming down on that wall.
Just because it just gets faded,
If it's full sun, it's in full sun,
yeah.
yeah. So,
Okay, well, if there's
Thank you.
nothing else,
The red, black, and green,
like,
we'll find out the name, the other piece there, the James O. Jesse. And Madam Chair is going to send out
I'll send out the list that I have, which is, there's also another list of empty places where
Oh,
art could go. So
yay.
we could look and maybe one of them is this site. And it was once upon a time considered.
Thank you.
I don't know, someone went around and they found little corners of places and stuff where you could put art. But as far as I can tell, the list is 4 or 5 years out of date. So that doesn't have anything we've done since then or things that have disappeared since then. So, but we'll try.
And congratulations, I'm sorry I missed
Yes,
you.
Oh,
So,
thank
welcome.
you,
yeah.
thank you. It's been an
Welcome.
exciting first meeting. I'm really excited to be here.
Good. It is frustrating sometimes, but we're glad you're here. Okay, may I have a motion we don't have Tom here, so would someone please move that we adjourn to our next regular meeting on Wednesday, March 18th?
I will fill in for Tom. I would like to make a motion that we adjourn this meeting of the Public Arts Commission to our regular meeting at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, March the 18th, 2020 at Palm Springs City Hall, large conference room, 3200 East Stockwitz Way, Palm Springs, California, 92262.
Second?
Second.
Good, we are adjourned.
Thank you.